Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? We're going to take a little sabbatical from the rookie deep dives. I know you guys have been enjoying that series, but we're just going to take a day off because we have something else Seahawks related that I want to talk about. And what I'm going to talk about in this video may not seem like it's a huge deal, but I feel like it represents something that is encouraging to me. And maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I'm trying to place meaning on something that is kind of meaningless. I don't know. But whatever. I needed to take a little bit of a break from the rookie deep dives anyway. You guys have no idea how tough it can be to plow through tape non-stop sometimes. So, yeah, we're going to take a little bit of a detour, and tomorrow we should be back on the rookie deep dives. So, we got some updates from one Bob Condotta yesterday, speaking about the KJ Wright situation. Now, I already made one video about the KJ Wright situation, but we've gotten some new information, and I want to talk about it for a little bit here because I find this to be kind of illuminating and kind of encouraging as well. So, to run it down real quick, Pete Carroll was asked about KJ Wright and his comments because KJ basically said, I want to either play for the Seahawks or I want to play for nobody. I'm going back to Seattle or I'm retiring. That's the implication. And honestly, given the fact that KJ Wright took forever to get signed last year at all, and given how he played once he got on a team, it's pretty believable that if KJ Wright does not find his way back to Seattle, it's going to be very hard for him to even find another taker for his services. So, here's what Carroll said. I love KJ. I've already talked to him about stuff for the future and all that. I did hear that he talked about playing, and we've already talked about that. So the interesting thing there is that when the subject of playing comes up, Carroll kind of dismisses it with this comment of, we've already talked about that. When I hear that, when I read that, what I hear is no. I basically hear all respect to KJ. He's been awesome for us. He's a cool player. He had great years for us. He did a lot of good stuff for the Seahawks. He's one of the guys who left with no ill will, not on bad terms at all. Or at least, I know KJ alluded to some disappointment that he wasn't brought back, but I can't. He also said that he wasn't willing to take a significant pay cut, so to me, that's just a business thing. That's not any actual bad blood. But regardless, Carroll basically dismisses that part of it. So it has since kind of morphed. The conversation has morphed a little bit. So here's the basic outline. KJ Wright has said either I want to play for the Seahawks in 2022 or I'm going to retire. So if Carroll has already dismissed the idea of him playing for the Seahawks, that means he's going to retire. That means that's the logical outcome of this. And if he retires, that frees him up to do other things like, say, coaching. So KJ Wright also came up in a conversation with Schneider, and he said both Pete and I have met with him this offseason. He's trying to figure some things out too, as we are, but probably be in some sort of non-playing role. So basically, if you look at what Pete has said and you look at what John has said, if you look at the direction of the team, if you look at the way everything is laid out, it's basically saying, well, we're not going to bring him back as a player. It's not happening. It doesn't make sense for anybody. And we have a lot of young guys we need to take a look at, and we can't let KJ get in the way of any of that. But because of that, we also know that he's not interested in playing anywhere else. So therefore, this presents a new opportunity. So by non-playing role, you can only assume some sort of coaching role. And I get the comments all the time from people saying, oh, I wish former Seahawk X would come back to be a coach for us. Cam Chancellor comes up a lot. But every now and then you hear like, oh, Marshawn Lynch, Richard Sherman, well, not Earl Thomas anymore. I think that ship has sailed. But Cliff Averill. People always talk about this stuff. And once KJ Wright retires, it's going to start happening with him. unless it happens immediately after he retires. And based off what the organization is saying, it seems like that's the direction this is headed. KJ Wright is going to be back with the Seahawks pretty soon here, possibly this offseason, but in the next couple of off seasons, and he's going to be filling a coaching role. And what I like about this, and what has me kind of excited about it, even though it seems like a small thing, and it might not even be a thing that takes effect this offseason, because he might take a year off to chill and then come back to be a coach next year or something, is that this is smart management of your organization's roster and staff. This makes sense. This is trying to get the best of both worlds. So, here's the thing. Well, let's look at KJ right here real quick. All right? So let's understand what we're talking about with KJ. So KJ Wright is about to turn 33 years old. He has played in over 160 career games. He has almost, counting playoffs, he has about 160 career starts. He's made almost 1,000 tackles. And by the way, I know that this is going to happen, so I'll say it now. There have already been some people who have come out and said, oh, we got to bring him back so we can get to tackle 1,000 with the Seahawks, like anybody cares about. I might be the only person in the world who actually gives a crap about volume tackling stats in the NFL. Most people do not think about them pretty much ever, and most people place pretty much no value on them. So I'm going to say right now, like, it's a cool idea, but it's not a significant deal. It's not like bringing back a defensive end for sack number 150 or a quarterback for touchdown pass number 400. It's just, people don't think about that stat that same way. But anyway, so KJ Wright played in every game last year, but he only started in half of them. He had 0 passes defensed, 0 plays on the ball, 0 turnovers forced of any kind. The closest he came to being a playmaker last year was his 2 tackles for loss. He had 2 tackles for loss. If you go down and look at his advanced numbers, you can see that in coverage, he didn't get targeted a ton because he was usually not on the field in passing situations, but when he was targeted, 17 targets, 16 completions, 1 quarterback pressure the whole season, and a grand total of 425 snaps, less than 40% of the total number of snaps the Raiders defense played. And you can go to his game logs and you can see sometimes he had a big role. There were a handful of games here where he played in more than half of the team's snaps. Week 1 against Baltimore, he played more than half the snaps. But then you have to go all the way down to December to find the next game where he did. Against Washington. And then again against the Browns, he actually played every snap. Against Kansas City, he played about 3/4 of the snaps. But every other game, he was the definition of a part-time player. Sometimes you could barely call him that. Against the Dolphins, he played 9 snaps, 11%. 5 snaps against the Eagles. 15 snaps, 20 snaps, a whole bunch of games where he basically has no footprint. He played 13 snaps against the Broncos, didn't record a single stat. When was the last time KJ Wright played in a game and didn't record a stat? So what I'm trying to get at here is a year later, a year extra mileage, what do you really think KJ is going to be able to do on a football field at that point? So this is why I say I like this. This is why I see this and I feel like maybe we're doing smart things. Maybe we're making the right decision here. I can't help but feel, and we'll never know because we don't have a time machine. We can't replay this scenario in different circumstances. I feel like a few years ago in this scenario, we would have re-signed KJ Wright for 2022, brought him back just because he's KJ Wright. You know, never mind the fact that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the team. Never mind the fact that we're trying to see what we have with younger players. We just bring him back because we want to bring him back. And we put him on the roster. We use a roster spot on him. We give him X number of snaps over the course of the season, probably a couple hundred. And he takes away the ability, the chance of development for a young player. And he probably doesn't really do anything that good. He might even get hurt because he's old now. But whatever. Either way, we bring him back. We put him out there. It doesn't go well. He doesn't look good. He makes a couple of plays, and we can feel all warm and fuzzy about it. But it's not actually helping this team go to the next level. But you bring him in as a coach. Now you're not using that roster spot. Now you're not using snaps on him, but he's still part of the team. He's still part of the organization. So the fact that this is apparently the route we're going to take with KJ is something that I don't know if this is what we would have done a couple years ago, but I kind of feel like it wouldn't be. I kind of feel like we would have talked ourselves into, well, let's bring him back. Kind of like we did with Bruce Irvin, right? And Bruce Irvin, I understand we were hoping that he was actually going to be a significant player for us, but we probably could have done a lot better than Bruce Irvin. But we decided to bring Bruce Irvin back because, hey, former player. He's one of our guys. So, I don't know. This strikes me as a very good idea. You are not risking a roster spot. You're not risking playing time. You're not risking your final memory of a player being a bad one. I talk about that one all the time. It's underrated. Who wants to see KJ Wright go out there for one last year like Bernie Mac and Mr. 3000 just stinking up the place to try to chase a meaningless statistical milestone? Instead, he gets to come back and maybe play the Adrian Peterson role, where we know how Peterson helped turn Rashad Penny's career around. Maybe KJ Wright can impart his wisdom onto a guy like a Boye Mafe, who could use some wisdom, by the way. I'm not going to talk about Jordan Brooks because KJ Wright and Jordan Brooks were here in 2020, but maybe there's a little bit of that too there. So I like this. This is the Michael Corleone move. Re-signing KJ Wright would have been the Fredo Corleone move. So I'm happy this is the path we're going. Hopefully it happens. I'd love for it to happen this offseason, but if KJ wants to take a year off, I can't blame him. But either way, if this is indeed the direction we're going with him, where we're telling him we're not going to bring you back as a player because it doesn't make sense for us, but you can come back as a coach, then I support that, and it's yet another decision this team is making that I look at and I go, this is correct. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. There will be another video later today, although only some of you will have any interest in it. Probably no streams tonight as well. I know there was only one short stream yesterday on Twitch, but probably nothing going on tonight. But catch you guys when I catch you guys. Go Hawks. And yeah, I talk crap about this organization all the time, so when I feel like they're doing things right, then I try to put myself out there and say, yeah, I think they're doing this thing right. And I think this is the right thing to do. KJ can come home, but he's not going to be on the salary cap. He's not going to be on the roster. He's not going to be taking up playing time that could go to many different young players, Avery Roberts, Vi Jones, whoever, and everybody wins.